Yo, what's up, guys? My name is Oliver Hayes alongside Harrison Simeon, and we are back for episode 12 of the SportsCast. There hasn't been too much as far as like games being played, but there's a lot of news, so let's get right into it.
Yeah, I mean, we're recording this on the day of just a few hours after one of the biggest Colorado moves in recruiting, and since Travis Hunter committed to CU, Jordan Seaton, the guy I've clamored for probably about a few months, ever since he was the highest ranked recruit not committed, clamoring for CU to go after him and get him, commits to CU today on national TV. It's a huge deal. I think at one point, or on some lists, he was the number 6 overall prospect in the country, not just the offensive line. Number 1 O-lineman by far. I said 5-star plus in our tweet because he's not just any usual 5-star. That this guy is going to slide right in at tackle, or maybe even guard, and really be that presence on the line that we've desperately needed. And yeah, I mean, what do you think of it? I was hoping I would see you in class right after that happened, because I found out as I was walking in, I saw Trent said Brian Bomb or like Brian Howell Bomb, and I'm like, holy what happened? Oh.
Nah, we cool. We keep it in.
I was like, what happened? We can edit that.
No. I need to keep that in. I'll bleep it out. That was hilarious. I need to keep that in. But that's the genuine reaction that like you get from that news, bro. Like, no, because I was at basketball practice when it happened. I'm like sitting there, and then like the only people there are like me and Pat Rooney, and we're just like wow, like I can't believe that happened. Like it was just insane. I mean, I use some other words that you potentially just used just now, but yeah, no. I mean, the news was crazy. Especially because it's an O-lineman. Like, thank the Lord.
Yeah.
And then just I don't know. Also seeing kind of the ripple effect, because I feel like the biggest name that I've heard since Seaton committed was Boot Carter.
Yeah, I was about to mention.
And all the stuff that he's been posting and whatnot, but just some other recruits, and of course, like, I don't know, with every little move that CU makes, whether it's a player decommitting or a coach leaving or a coach joining or a player committing, there's always a number of ripple effects of people kind of freaking out about whatever. But this one is a good one.
The first other recruit I thought of when I saw Seaton committed was Bryce Underwood.
Yeah.
And I know we're probably out of the running for him for the most part. It seemed like it was between Michigan and LSU. It seemed like we were out of the running for Seaton, because just a few days ago he posted his, he had his final 7 where we were in it, but then in his post from a few days ago he posted 6 teams, none of which were ours. He just straight up just took out ours, which we thought, oh, he's just being petty. He doesn't want to come here anymore. He mentioned, I think, in an interview a few days back, or maybe a week ago, talking about how he can see through a team being 4-8, and as much as he can get talked to, if your team's not successful, he may not, consider going there. But he pulled a complete 180 on those sort of signs, and is now committed to us. And at least for now, we can really look forward to seeing him on that line and for a long time, because he said for the next 3 to 4 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, in college like sports nowadays, of course, you never trust that, but
right.
But I mean, still, that's huge. And with Phil Lodeholt getting hired as a new O-line coach, and what he's bringing to the table, and what Coach Prime has said about him, like, I don't know, the O-line, like, I mean, I don't know. It's just insane, because now you have so much more optimism for an O-line that was god awful this past year. And I mean, it's no shade to the guys that were on the line. It's just at the end of the day, they didn't get the job done. I mean, Shedeur was so insanely hurt by the end of the season. I mean, the stats show it. Like,
most sacked quarterback in the FBS, most sacked quarterback in Colorado history by a lot.
Yeah,
No, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I was just gonna say that I mean, yeah, like it's undeniable how bad the offensive line was, and so to be optimistic about it, at this point in the early signing period, it's awesome, and I mean, I don't know, just Seaton's also, like we kind of mentioned earlier with Luke Carter, but doing this on national television, and then some of the things that he was saying after, mentioning the 4 and 8, but also he was like, oh yeah, if you claim to be a dog, like you should like come to Colorado, So he's also,
I mean, that was great that he's like doing a little bit of recruiting himself.
Yeah, for sure, because yeah, I mean, part of that, he knows, like, he's only one of 11 that's gonna be on the field at the time, and one of however many guys they have on that Colorado roster, so I mean, yeah, just great stuff, and from what I've seen from him, I mean, at least on Undisputed this morning, he seems like well versed with the media, mature, knows what he wants, and I don't know, I mean, yeah, just more than excited to see that, and yeah, I mean, just great optimism. So.
Yeah, I mean, really great, and I think it's part of that ripple effect is going to be within the O-line, because we've talked about before, we're not one piece away from having, perfectly well-rounded offense. And it's going to be kind of difficult because I know I wanted to mention Sean Lewis, him leaving now. I remember I broke the news, like, literally while we were going last week. But, yeah, Sean Lewis in San Diego State. Also, was it Darian Hagan and Bill O'Boyle that left with him, the running backs coach, or he wasn't the running backs coach this past year, Hagan, but he was in years past, and he's like a legend around campus. And Bill O'Boyle, the O-line coach from last year, leaving, being replaced by Loadholt, like you mentioned. But yeah, I think I've talked about being able to clone 5 Jordan Seatons on that line, because of how versatile he is, and his potential to maybe play guard in the interior. But I think overall, like, the pieces are coming together. Everyone was going crazy about, all these guys are leaving, all the staff's leaving, what's going on? When it was really just because they knew they were going to get the clicks. They knew that Colorado's an attention factory right now.
Yeah.
Just, positive and negative because of Coach Prime. And something like this is just another testament to how, when there's a huge boom, you may see some people backtrack, and then once things get bad again, it's like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of just the nature of, like, I feel like, I don't know, just the consumption of news, especially in sports, but especially nowadays with social media, it seems like, I don't know, things will happen and you'll forget about them the next day because something new will happen, and then the narrative is completely changed.
Right.
So.
I mean, it's probably just clout is the biggest part of it.
Yeah.
Clout is one hell of a drug.
Definitely, and of course with like Coach Prime winning Sports Illustrated Person of the Year, having his season 2 premiere at the CEBO Event Center, that got a huge showing, yesterday, and all that other stuff, all that big attention, I mean, it rubs other fan bases the wrong way just because, they wish they had it. I mean, it's funny because, yeah, I mean, yeah, you want to be the team under the spotlight. You want to be talked about, and it's tough when yeah, especially in a situation like this where Colorado hasn't necessarily had the play all come together quite yet, but they're still getting like the most attention all of college football. It's like, I don't know, that is, yeah, I understand kind of a little bit where it comes from, but yeah, anyway, I don't know, just great stuff to see with Seaton committing, and hopefully for some more holiday December gifts come, and
I would imagine there will be some Christmas presents on the way.
So.
And I'm very interested now to see where we go with our next offensive coordinator, because Coach Prime said that Pat Shermer's most likely going to be returning. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of that. I mean, I didn't mind him as OC. I don't think, it's not the worst thing we could do. Just keeping him in-house, keeping him, for a second full season with what should be a somewhat similar personnel group than last year. No Xavier Weaver, no Christian Lichtenhand. Not that that's going to make a big of an impact, but Seaton likely filling his spot, at least from what it looks like.
But just some changes.
Changes.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what Shermer does, especially because, I don't know, it really seemed like not too much changed between him and Sean Lewis this year, and so to kind of allow him to have that off season and see what he comes up with will be interesting, especially because of all the critiques people have had about things that he's done, the endeavors that he's had in the past, in the football world. So yeah, I mean, you know, that's kind of a hard thing to look at when there's a guy who hasn't necessarily proved himself, I guess. But yeah, still some optimism with that, and you know, he's experienced, and yeah, I mean, I think it'll pay off, and I think when you have players of this caliber, especially if this O-line really does beef up, I mean, it already has greatly, but I mean, Seaton is just one player. You need protection all across the board. So
Right.
so you know, how depending on how this O-line shapes up, and I mean, I guess there's Tyler Brown coming back, so
That'll be good.
So I mean, there's
Happy for him.
I mean, just so much optimism coming with the O-line and just the team in general. So yeah.
And I think going back a little bit on the O-line or the O coordinator conversation, I think, you know, with Shermer, you really like to have that NFL guy in the building, because this is a team that's going to try to build NFL players and players that continue to, you know, learn how to win together and learn how to be to compete at the next level together. And so with Shermer, I think it's, you know, really nice with that. I noticed Brian Leftwich was someone a lot of people were talking about as potentially the next offensive coordinator, and I'd really like that. I know he would probably garner NFL interest. I've heard stuff about him and the Steelers, but with Leftwich, I mean, he has experience. He literally won a Super Bowl as an OC, so even though it was with Brady, which you have to take that with a grain of salt, I think it's, you know, it would be really cool to have someone like that in the building. And with that kind of style of offense, when he was with Tampa, he really brought the best out of those receivers. Like, you know, we have a talented receiving group, and they did with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. So he really brought the best out of them, and you could maybe see the even higher levels of play from guys like Jimmy Horn, Omarion Miller, obviously Travis Hunter, and guys like that. So I'm really interested to see where we go with that direction. And maybe if Shermer sticks around, we could maybe expand on the running game, because now that we have Seaton, you know, it's not just about protecting Shador, which I think is probably Coach Prime's biggest priority. It's, can you establish the run? Can you control the clock a little better? Can you get in situations where when you go up big, you can salt the game away, or when you're behind, you're not forced to throw and forced to turn into a very predictable offense. So I think it's less about who steps into that OC spot and what's the scheme moving forward, what's the direction of the offense, what's the identity of it.
Yeah, because it really seemed like, I mean, we've touched on this multiple times, like in our podcast, just about how the beginning of the season was, you know, partly due to the teams that they were playing, but also just the inability to see film on this Colorado team. And so in those first few games, like especially against TCU, like that was the most layered we had seen this offense, it seemed like, and so to have those other options, in the run game, but you also, you know, you have to expect that you know, those screenplays work a little bit better, you know, and I mean, just the overall protection, it boosts the offense in so many ways and creates those different layers that allows the offense to get moving and makes them less predictable, like you said, and when teams do watch film, they aren't just like, okay, we just have to, you know, pressure Shador, which is the easiest thing of all time. So
now you actually have an offensive lineman to worry about, like if you have to scheme for, pick up his tendencies. And this is a guy that went to one of the best, you know, sort of the overtime elite of football.
Yeah.
At least in terms of high school quality he's playing against. So
yeah,
I'm really excited to see how Seaton can adapt and hopefully play for us for the foreseeable future, even when we're, once Shedeur is in the NFL, once we're having to replace those big positions like him and Travis and everything, a guy that we can really have for our future, and hopefully it leads to more of it. You're already seeing that. Like you mentioned, Boo Carter, that's a guy, he's almost like a Deebo Samuel who can play corner because he can play in the slot receiver. He's listed as a running back, and then he can also play corner. So to have another Travis Hunter type player would be just unreal.
Yeah,
if we can flip him from Tennessee.
That would be wild, and with Seaton committing, I don't know. You think about the other commits, but like you said, the IMG Academy being like, the overtime elite or the Oak Hill or Montverde Academy, that's basketball schools, but that kind of being the football version of those those schools. It's overtime elite's not a school, but hoping that he can get some of that big talent that plays for IMG to come to CU, and then I don't know, just also thinking about that comment where he's like, oh yeah, I want to be here for the next 3-4 years. It also does give you not that you need too much more confirmation about whether or not Coach Prime's going to stick around, but if you have a guy like that who's like, I'm going to be here for the next 3-4 years, that gives you pretty great optimism that Coach Prime, that's part of his pitch. He's like, I'm going to be here for the whole time you're here, and of course that's great to hear for Colorado fans and just everyone supporting this Buffs team. So just all overall great stuff. And then I don't know, I'm not sure if there's too much more with that.
I did want to add, if we're done with football, just about like little more postseason stuff. Travis Hunter making an All-American, at least not the official ones, but voted by Sports Illustrated for the first team, by 27 Sports, CBS for the second team, and he's showing that, and he also made all first team Pac-12
and the
Paul Hornung Award winner for the most versatile player.
A lot of great stuff for Travis, and I really wonder how many players have been picked to multiple Pac-12 teams in the same season.
That's what I was wondering too. I was thinking Brian would tweet something about that, but I don't know if I saw it.
But then Shedeur, he got what was it, an honorable mention? Vissett.
It's tough to be, in most other conferences I think Shedeur would be a higher than an honorable mention, but when you have Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, Bo Nix, it's going to be hard to crack the top three.
Yeah, definitely. But then you have some of those other guys like Mark Vissett. Glad he's getting the recognition because, I don't know, as I tweeted out multiple games this year, like he was low-key the MVP.
Yeah, he definitely should have been higher than honorable mention because in terms of the Pac-12, not that I was paying too much attention to punters, but he was good, really good. Like he was deserving of that kind of honor. And then Shiloh made an honorable mention for all Pac-12, and Dylan Edwards all freshman team honorable mention. So really cool to see those guys getting those awards. And then we had a defensive end coaching switch, Nick Williams, departing. That was a really tough loss because you saw how he impacted some of those edge rushers as the season went on. You knew he was a guy that was always going to be a really good leader in the building. And in recruiting, he was one of our top guys there.
Yeah, no, he was very well liked, and that was felt among press conferences and in those post practice scrambles and whatnot. And whenever he would talk to the media, he was always well versed and a good guy to talk to. And I had overall great feelings about him, and it's tough to see him go, but it kind of just happens, and hopefully Vincent Dancy, when he comes in, is able to pick up that slack and keep it coming.
Yeah, from everything I've seen, Dancy seems to be a pretty worthy replacement. He was the head coach at Mississippi Valley State for about 5 years, and now he's going to take over in Williams' spot. Williams went to Syracuse. It's good to see him go, or good to see him get that opportunity. It's tough to see him leave CU. Yeah, I think it's to put it simply. And I'm really excited about Dancy though, because he seems to be a leader, and similar to Nick Williams' his style, a guy that's in-house. Coach Prime's emphasized the importance of having people in the building that you can trust at all times in any spot. That's really cool to see.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, I think that's as much as we can talk about for football.
We could touch on. I don't know if we can. We don't have to touch on it, but just seeing Coach Prime getting Sports Illustrated Sports Person of the Year.
Yeah, I mean that was neat.
In really good company.
And yeah, like I said earlier, like the Prime show, the premiering.
Oh yeah, Amazon Prime.
That was neat. But I mean, as far as that's just kind of like awards and whatnot, and just cool things, not necessarily anything too further to dive into. I haven't watched the episode yet.
Me neither. I need to though.
But I was thinking I might do that today, with it releasing. But I don't know. I mean,
we had one more commit that was on the O-line. Amari Ward came from Jackson State.
Yeah, on
it's
his
good to at least
too.
have depth if he's not a starter immediately. Have the fresh faces in the building. Definitely needed after last year's performance.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I don't know. Everyone knows at this point, if you don't, that I'm mad interested in basketball and covering that to the fullest extent. So I'm ready whenever you are to move on.
Yeah, I will say one last thing. Thank you, Mikey Harrison. He left for the portal. Hopefully we get a new tight end to replace him, but he'll have somewhat big shoes to fill, at least in Patrick Dawson's eyes.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's definitely something worth mentioning, and I feel bad that I was trying to move on without mentioning that real quick.
Mikey's a legend for that CSU game.
Definitely, but yeah, no, I mean, yeah, Mikey was cool, but yeah. So now it's basketball time.
Now basketball, and you can go into it because there's only one game to cover.
Yeah,
and I was there also. Finally, went to the event center for the first men's game I've been to.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it wasn't like that great of a game from a basketball fan standpoint. I mean, Pepperdine is not that great of a team. So yeah, I mean, they made a few baskets early, but I mean, pretty early on in that first half, Colorado, I mean, they were pushing the break, and they've shot it a lot better at the CU Event Center. And so yeah, they're hitting threes, they're passing the ball well, and I mean, just overall that first half was really great to see from them, especially because it seemed like they'd gotten rid of some of the things that people have harped on them for, like their defense. People were upset with the defense, and they only gave up, I think it was 28 points in that first half, and I mean, all those points came from the outside. Basically, they only allowed 4 points in the paint, and so that was great to see. I mean, the turnovers was still. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, they had 6 in the first half. I think 7 in the second half. So still not great. But at least it seemed like. I don't know. It was. Yeah, I don't know. Turnovers was whatever, but then I don't know. The offense, the ball was moving a lot more. Tristan Silva got back on track. He shot 100% from the field, and from the line. 5 of 5 from the field. I think it was 2 of 2 from 3, and then 10 of 10 from the line. So it was a great game from him. Cody Williams, another 21-point performance. But the thing I want to dive into the most is the rotation in this upcoming Miami game, because RJ Smith.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, Miami will be fun, playing in the Barclays Center. It'll be their first game. I think it's Colorado's first game in New York since the Derek White days, if I'm not mistaken. So it'll be a cool opportunity for those kids, and getting to see the city a little bit, playing in an NBA arena and whatnot. That would be pretty cool, and especially being able to play a Miami team like this, who went to the Final Four last year, and even though they dropped to number 15 after their loss to Kentucky. Being able to see a March Madness type matchup, but not on the road in a neutral setting, will be huge for Colorado's schedule, especially if they can get this win. Because in a neutral setting, it's obviously a lot easier than playing on the road. So yeah, if they can get a big win, that'd be huge. But
Miami's what, 15 in the country?
Yeah, they're 15 now. They were 8, and then they lost to Kentucky.
And this is a team that was in the Final Four last year, so
yeah,
to get a win over them would be really. They were Final Four, right? Or they
they were Final Four, and no, it should be a fun game. But the one thing I want to talk on the most is so I wonder what this rotation will look like going forward, because you have your top 7. The top 7, isn't going to change, at least right now. There's unless there's a significant injury, but those guys, those 8th, 9th, 10th guys, will be quite interesting, because we've seen, R.J. Smith really seemed to be the only guy that solidified himself as an 8th man, and Bengot Dak and Hassan Zope were kind of fighting for that 9th, 10th man role. Getting some more minutes in the first half. But then before this Pepperdine game, it came out that RJ was dealing with some lower leg issue to his, I think it was his, I want to say his left leg, based on what he was. I think he was shooting off his right leg today during practice. So I think
it's like a calf strain or something along that line. Maybe
there wasn't any clarification on it, but as far as we know, Tad said he would be out indefinitely. So not the best news. But you just think about Hassan Zope and Bengot Dak, but also Harrison Carrington. He was a redshirt.
Some minutes in the first half.
Yeah,
which I found wild.
But you kind of need that, you don't know necessarily when you're going to need minutes, what personnel you need to throw out there, and in a game against Pepperdine, like I said, Pepperdine isn't the greatest team, so to get that run in was good for all 3 of those guys. Like Bengot Dak had an alley-oop dunk, which is pretty cool, as a part of a back-to-back sequence with Cody Williams' alley-oop dunk as well. And Bengot also had I think he had a block in that same sequence, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm excited to see what happens on Sunday when if Colorado does go past their top 7 and dive into those 8, 9, 10 guys. I think that'll be interesting. And so I kind of wonder, I know you haven't watched the team too much, but just on what you did see, what you think as far as the rotation, and then maybe just any other general thoughts.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky because maybe you go with Carrington just because of the positional aspect of it. RJ being a guard, Carrington being the only real true guard that at least I noticed that was out there. It'll be interesting. I wouldn't even be shocked if it's a 7-man rotation, just because it's an elite team like Miami. And if you get into a really close game, you're going to want to win and have as many of your reliable players on the floor at all times. And with Dak and Zope, they've shown flashes. Dak's shown really nice athleticism, and when given the ball in space, he doesn't have horrible strength for his frame. And then with Zope, I really couldn't tell. It was hard for me to tell when he was in, because it was tough. Because at the point I had checked out of that game when we were up by about 20 something, and I was only really looking for what can Cody Williams do next, because of how impressive his performance was once again. 9 for 13 from the field, hit 2 threes on both of his attempts, which is pretty nice. And then he just looked great in all aspects. I think it'll be interesting. I think they're gonna go with Dak, though. If I had to think who the 8th man would be, it would be him. I know he didn't have the most minutes by a lot over Carrington or Zope at 11. But if it were to be anyone, I think the rotation is going to look similar to how it did against Pepperdine, though maybe with the starters playing a few more minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe Hammond playing a few more minutes to ease KJ a little bit in his effort. He only took 7 shots, made 6 of them though against Pepperdine. So.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting because I like Dak, Zope, and Carrington to an extent. But I think, they're going to run the small ball with Eddie out and Luke in. I've noticed that a lot. They've run KJ and Julian at the same time, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they did against CSU a decent amount.
So when you have that versatility at the guard spot and in the front court, you don't have to always, have to rely on an 8th, a 9th, 10th man. You have people who can slide into different positions and not be, forced to play rigidly. So I think, I liked what I saw from the team a lot. They just looked way better than last year's team in general. A team that can a team that can go farther and get into the tournament and win a round or two. And I just think that with Hadley and guys like Luke O'Brien, those versatile wings are going to be the X factors for us moving forward. Because if they can just lock in on every defensive possession, or at least one of them locks in every defensive possession, you're not going to have those struggles like you did against CSU. Yeah. CSU, that hasn't turned out to be as bad of a loss as many thought, because just how good they've been. They beat Creighton. I think they beat another pretty good team a few nights ago.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. They beat Washington soon after.
That might be what I'm thinking of.
But then I think that they're still undefeated as far as I know.
Yeah. And, that hasn't been a bad loss.
Yeah.
I think they're up to 14 in the rankings, something in the teens, or close between 10 and 15.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, now with this Miami game, for sure, you're going to see those top 7. You're going to see them in the majority of the game. But yeah, I don't know, it'll be interesting as far as what that 8th man looks like, because it's not like RJ really got too much run in the FSU or CSU game, but he did get in for a few minutes, and just that will be something to look for, and against this Miami team, they have a fantastic offense. They can shoot the ball from deep, and they can score in the paint. And so, Eddie kind of struggles, as we saw against, CSU. He kind of struggles against teams like that defensively. And so when you have to go a little bit smaller, it will be, will it be Carrington? Will it be Dak? Will it be, Jizope? Because even though I feel like Jizope may be the furthest back offensively, I feel like when he comes in, he'll have a turnover, a shot or something where it's like, wow, like we're even ready to play. But besides that, he brings energy, brings good defense. He's gonna hustle his butt off. But there was a mention by Boyle today when I asked him about the rotation of Joe Hurlburt. He was like, maybe we might even go to Joe. So
I was about to mention, because I was about to say, I'm thinking we're gonna need a big game on the boards from Eddie, because Miami has a guy that averages double-digit rebounds and double-digit points in Norchand Omir. And they also, seem like a pretty well-rounded rebounding team. So you're going to need to see a really good game on the boards from guys like Eddie, guys like Javon Hadley, maybe even Luke O'Brien or Tristan. And you're going to need to, win that battle if you're going to want to have a chance. At least keep things close in the battle, because they seem like a good team that's one of their biggest strengths, is just getting boards, and it looks like they're an over 40% 3-point shooting team.
Yeah. So
that to guard the 3-point line, getting rebounds, I think that's the biggest keys to the game for me.
Yeah. Their offense is just phenomenal. But the one thing, if I
percentage is 56.
Yeah.
Goodness.
No, it's insane. Their offense is pretty crazy. They're 42.5 from three, is the second best in the nation.
It's not even like they're scoring that much. They are, but like Notre Dame, they only scored 62.
But they're scoring the 27th most points in the nation as of right now, and and that 3-point percentage is coming on
Yeah, they've just been consistent.
almost 23 attempts per game. So I mean they're gonna light it up. It will be a tough game, and Colorado's defense has been kind of subpar this year, especially when me and a fair amount of other people expected this team to be defense to be their strong suit. I mean, Boyle's teams usually seem to have that identity, and especially with how long and athletic this team is and how well they communicate, it's kind of weird to see the defense kind of fall off a little bit. But it came together a little bit against Pepperdine. But I'm just if nothing else happens in this game, the one thing I want to see is a big Tristan Silva performance.
Yeah, because I mean, he looked great against Pepperdine, but the big knock on him that's starting to grow even more is that he doesn't really show up in those big games in any real impactful way. He puts up the numbers, but when the defense gets physical and bumps into him, he makes mistakes and gets more passive and indecisive. And I really want to see a decisive Tristan da Silva. Even if he's missing those shots, at least to see him take it and be more aggressive on the offensive end of getting inside, using his taller frame to really push back against some of that defense that's rattled him in some of these bigger games, especially CSU.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, like FSU was one of his worst games of his career, at least shooting the ball. And even though he impacts the ball or impacts the game in other ways, like you mentioned, like when his shot isn't going, then those other offensive mistakes tend to build up a little bit. And I think that's just because he is such an efficient player when he's on. He wants to play within the flow of the offense. He doesn't want to take shots that aren't good shots, and so that's why you see a lot of those games where like the last game, 100% from the field, or he might shoot 6 or 7 or something like that. But I mean, he got to the line a lot last game, and so he's like, I want to get to the line a lot more. I want to be a little bit more aggressive, and I think the big thing for him will just be making sure that when those shots aren't falling, that when he does shoot the ball, it isn't forced, and he isn't thinking, I need to be a little bit more unselfish, because it seems like when those shots just aren't falling, you can see kind of the gears spinning a little bit in his head a little bit, and that leads to him maybe hesitantly taking a shot, or maybe being like, I need to take this shot, and then I don't know, you're like, that wasn't really him, and so yeah, no, I want to see a big TDS game in Brooklyn in the Barclays Center. I'm not sure how many fans there will be in between a Miami Colorado game in Brooklyn, but I mean, it will be a big matchup, and hopefully he can show out. I mean, the game's on ESPN2, so not quite the big stage, but I mean, ESPN2 is still huge, so
yeah.
So I want to see some big stuff from him, and and one of the most recent mock drafts I've seen, have him going to the Celtics in the second round.
Ooh,
so
there's your team.
So yeah, no, but no, just kidding. But not kidding that he was in a mock draft. But yeah, I don't know whether he goes to Celtics or not.
Porzingis is back.
Is whatever. Yeah. but yeah, no. Anyway, I want to see a big game from TDS, and yeah, I also, if another thing I want to see is just how the ball moves, and how that leads to 3-point shots, because against those weaker teams, the ball moves insanely well. They get open shots and they knock down the 3 ball. But against those better teams, the ball becomes a lot more stagnant. You see a lot more one-on-one type action. That's why it's great to see that KJ and Cody had those big second halves against CSU, but I mean, it's tough when your whole offense is coming pretty much from 2 guys.
Right.
And so yeah, I want to see the team get more involved with one another between against a bigger opponent like this.
Yeah, I remember they matched the assist total of the CSU game against Pepperdine in probably 8 minutes, or not even.
Yeah.
They really moved the ball a lot better, but you're going to need to really step up, moving the ball around, not getting super stagnant in the half court against those better teams, because they're just going to pick you apart if you stand and isolate and have to, don't move the off ball and get yourself open.
Yeah, definitely. And I think another thing that kind of saw them working a little bit in practice today is just making sure that they can get in transition against these good teams. Because against CSU, I'd have to look at the exact amount of transition points, but it had to be like 2, 4 maybe. Like I can't remember. Like I really can't remember too many instances in that game where they had transition opportunities, and with a team that's as long and athletic as this team is, you need to get that. And so yeah, I want them to push the transition and yeah. I don't know. It's kind of funny at this point because I've kind of said I want them to do everything well, but yeah, no. It's really just.
Well, actually, it says they had 12 fast break points, but I don't know if that.
Yeah, I don't know. Those came more in the second half, but I just remember that first half they just couldn't get really anything going. And if you look at
they had 0 fast break points in the first half. All of them were in the second half.
Yeah, so I don't know. I want to see them run the transition. I want to see them move the ball well, and I think with that they'll also help Tristan get going.
Yeah,
and also allow just the rest of the team to get going, because KJ played good in that CSU game, but against FSU was arguably one of the worst games of his career, or not arguably, it was one of the worst games of his career, at least shooting the ball. And so I don't know. You need to. I don't know. With this team is just all about weathering the storm and making sure that the highs and the lows aren't too high and aren't too low, and that they can kind of find that even balance that they can just ride along, and keep going. It's tough when like in the FSU game, like it would be like basketball is a game of runs for sure, but that was egregious. It would be like FSU goes on a 12-point run. Oh, my God, Colorado just went on a 12-point run right back to tie it. And then FSU would go on a huge run to extend, and then Colorado would go back to tie it. And so it was kind of like that the whole game until overtime, and then FSU went on the big run, and then, there's just not enough time to come back. So yeah, weathering the storm and just keeping up some more consistent play just on a game-to-game basis. And with this game being on the road, they're 1-2 on the road, but even in their one win against Richmond, it didn't come too easy. They didn't shoot the ball too well, they turned the ball over. The assist numbers were down, and so yeah, there's a lot to look forward to in this game against Miami, and I think this will really be it won't be the defining moment for what to expect this season, but I think it will, if a win comes, that will definitely be a big indicator of what this team is built for and what they can do. So maybe not even necessarily a win, but just a good, valiant effort that they've put together 2 good halves of basketball. Excuse me. They can put together two big halves of basketball and play on a consistent basis. And even if they do end up losing to this talented Miami squad, just to know that they did what they could, and they played Colorado basketball.
Right, and I think the consistency part is the most important aspect of this season, because it's always been the most important part of just watching Tad Boyle Colorado basketball. It's just that whether it be game to game or half to half or quarter to quarter, what is your level of consistency? When can you take that next step to where you're truly there, not just for a game or two, but for an entire season of just putting together solid, well-rounded basketball? I think that's something we talked about in our preview. That was the biggest deficit of the team last year, is that they just wouldn't be consistent at all. And I think now that we have someone like a Cody Williams, who we've almost barely mentioned how great he's been right out the bat, has been massive. And I think if we can see him continue to perform like he did against CSU, at least in that second half, then you're going to start to see that consistency start to form together around the different players.
Yeah, because it really seems like I don't mean to cut you off, but it really seems like
that was about all.
Colorado has unlocked Slasher Cody for sure. I mean, he's going to the hoop and he's trying to make plays.
He tried to end some guy on
on Pepperdine.
On Pepperdine's life, and he got swatted too.
But anyway, Cody's looking great as a slasher, and that opens up opportunities for the offense that might not have been there earlier in the year. And he doesn't put up too many three balls, but from what we've seen, like he's been making a fair amount.
His rim pressure has generated, made him more open. Just even when he gets the ball in the elbow, he'll just, the guy will be sagging off, and he'll have a warm-up style three where he can, make them more efficiently. And eventually you're going to have to respect that shot. And if he can get that respectable shot, that can generate more rim pressure.
Yeah.
Like, his ability to open up lanes and draw fouls and dunk on more people. So
yeah, create more highlights and it's tough because it's like, I don't know. It's almost like you don't want him to create too many highlights, and hopefully we can get him for another year. But now, in a perfect world, that would be the case. But honestly, even in a perfect world, you just want Cody to ball out and be a top pick. That's what I'm hoping for Cody. Like, we want to see him as much as possible, but you want him to. How that would also represent Colorado basketball, and hopefully more Cody-esque guys, show up in the future, and more big things are on the way. But with finals week right around the corner, I need to get to class somewhat soon. Can't go over. So let's get into women's basketball.
Yeah, that was about all we had to say. That was a good talk about the men's hoops and now the women's. Not a ton to say about these last two games except for two words, and that is, well, maybe three, because it's about Frida Foreman. And just her ability to make threes has been insane in this stretch of non-conference games. You saw against Air Force, she was the only starter in double digits, but we still won by 16 just because of her shot, 5 for 9 from 3. 23 points. Quay Miller had a decent game with 8 points, 9 rebounds, was efficient. And you really saw, we talked last week about when was going to be her breakout performance against UT Arlington was that performance. She had 21 and 11, hit, I think, was it? It was 4 threes. Yeah, 4 threes on 7 shots. Sherrod had her career high in assists. The ball was moving really well. You can't take too much away from these type of games because UT Arlington is not just UT Arlington. It was 1-7 going into this, now 1-8. And with Air Force, they're a group of 5 team. They're gonna compete. They, I think, were 4-3 coming into the game. But they're not some marquee matchup that you're going to circle on the schedule. This is really just tune-up before, I think in about 3 weeks is that when you're going to see the start of conference play. And that's when you're really going to see the true colors of this team and really how they can compete against the higher level of women's college basketball, because they dropped to 8, weirdly, behind LSU in last week's or this week's. Even though they beat them by like 20.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen too many people rating this team like to any foreseeable this is a Final Four level team. But I think they're gonna find out as soon as we start playing some legitimate, real opponents. And I think if we can pick up a win against Utah, they just lost one of their better players for the year, which is unfortunate. But we could see that's gonna be at home, I'm pretty sure, and we could see a really big performance all around. And I think with the rotation, you're going to hope to see some more of Maddie Nolan, because she came around. She's in spurts. She missed 2 open threes against UT Arlington, but then hit back-to-back ones in, I think it was the third quarter. And you saw the three-point line completely open up for the team in that game. And they took 31 against UT Arlington, and that's what I talked about going into the year, just taking more threes. They only averaged 17 a game attempts last year, and they made 13 on 31 attempts. And at one point, they were shooting like 60%. It was like 13 for 24, or like
I think it was 13 for 23, and then they missed like their last like 10 threes of the game.
Yeah,
but I mean,
that was all in the fourth quarter when like things were out of hand.
Yeah.
Shalomi Sanders or Shalomai?
I think it's Shalomai.
Shalomai. I hear different every time. It's wild. She came in versus Air Force, got her first bucket as a 3-pointer against Air Force, and we've just stayed in control over these teams. We've never let them really get into it. Even with Boston, you kind of felt that at some point they were going to make that run, and despite it being a 38-5 run, which you didn't really expect to be that, insane. You had, just control over that. You never thought, oh, Boston's going to win.
Yeah.
Like this is, you just kind of were waiting on the shots to start falling. And when they do, they come in bunches because they really play sometimes a little inefficiently. But in the last few games, I mean, they shot 46% or 47% from the field against UT Arlington, and that was 8 for 24 in the fourth. So if you take that away, you're getting over 50%. You had 50% shooting or better in each of the first 3 quarters against UT Arlington, and then against Air Force, you had they held them to just 33% shooting, 13.6 in the field. And after it was a bit of a rough first quarter, you had 47% shooting or better in each quarter with 50 or better in the middle 2, which really put the game out of reach. So sometimes they need just little help warming up. But once, they get into their flow, Frida starts hitting those threes, it opens up everything else. Jalen's always going to provide rim pressure. Erna Vonleh has been so good in just positioning and just like getting inside and getting those basically free shots, because she just picks on those mismatches and runs the floor extremely well too, and just is able to trail behind Jalen or Kendall Wetta or Tamia Sadler or anybody, and finds those baskets with ease. Didn't have the greatest game against Air Force, but Jalen only had 2 points too, and they were able to find production elsewhere. He had Wetta at 8 points. Sarah Rose Smith has been pretty solid in these last few games, 11 against Air Force, and then against UT Arlington, I believe she
only had 4.
Had 4, but I mean, 8 boards. 8 boards, 2 of them offensive. You see her impact on the floor, no matter if she's showing up in terms of scoring. And then Maddie Nolan at a plus 20, plus minus. So she played really well on the defensive end, even though she only made 3 shots. She's been a lot more impressive on the defensive end than I honestly expected. I really just thought, she'd be able to shoot. Mm-hmm. But in terms of defense, you'd want to trust Sadler more maybe. But it's been the opposite.
Yeah.
Sadler's been nice to get steals, but in terms of just one-on-one on the perimeter, Nolan's been really good. And you've even seen some development in the front court. I mean, Charlotte Whitaker was practicing threes and warm-ups, and she made a nice little mid-range shot against UT Arlington. So,
yeah, but I mean,
you have to at least respect the depth of the front court. Because you're going to have times where Aaronette's going to get in foul trouble, Quay might get in foul trouble. You're going to need the players like Brianna McLeod, Charlotte Whitaker, to come through. And with McLeod, I see a lot of resemblance between her and Aaronette Vonleh's game. And just getting inside, and she's not making shots as efficiently, but she's getting there. I mean, she's a sophomore, didn't really play too much as a freshman, and is starting to get those gradual minutes. And something I've liked about these games is that they've played so many different players. You've seen so many people contribute. I know Tamia Sadler sprained her ankle against UT Arlington, but it didn't seem that bad, at least when I asked Jara Payne about it. I also know Michaela Johnson had a boot on her leg, so that takes a little bit of the guard depth away.
Yeah. But at least I don't think their next game is until the 21st.
Yeah, they get a break now.
So they have quite a bit off. And then of course almost a full month until Pac-12 play starts on I want to say the 30th for the women's team.
The 30th.
But yeah, no. One thing that stands out that just jumps off the box score is just how much they win the rebound battle by in each game. I mean, it's overwhelming. Yeah, that's huge. But the one thing that I want to see the most from this team is just about protecting the ball. They have a lot of turnovers. It
was a pretty sloppy game against both sides in terms of they had 21 turnovers against Air Force, which was really, they didn't really blow them out because of that. And Air Force was playing a really press-heavy defense, so I think that forced a lot of them.
And across the board, I don't know, Colorado they show up in the top 100 for NCAA rankings a lot, especially scoring the ball, defensively, rebounding the ball. They're not bad at either, but it's the turnovers. 272nd in the nation as far as turnovers is not something that is not something you want, and it's something that can help you, that helps bad teams win games. It's not to beat this Colorado team, you need to I don't know, you need to be a good team. I don't think any bad team is going to knock off this Colorado squad. However, when they do play a decent but lesser opponent, I really think that those turnovers can build up. And so before Pac-12 play starts and they start playing those better teams, even though they have played LSU and stuff, I do want to see the turnovers cut down and I don't know. That really seems to be their only weakness at the moment.
Yeah, it's tough to see their numbers and nothing really stands out completely besides those turnovers, but they do limit second chance points, 10th in the nation, giving up offensive rebounds. They're just able to dominate the glass in pretty much every contest where they have the size advantage with, they crash everything. That's their strategy, is they don't even really worry about running in transition unless it's an easy board that goes right to Jalen. And then if, with the ability with Jalen to get across the floor so quickly and start the offense up as quickly as they can afford to crash the glass, send, 3-4 bodies at the basket. And they do a great job of getting in the right position to make those, to get in that spot. And they're 35th in steals, 7th in assists, which is really nice. They're able to move the ball really, really well, no matter who they're playing. I think that's the important part. And you're able to see so many different players make those assists, because you have Jalen, who's, I would say, is the best playmaker, but Kendall Wetta does her thing. Sarah Rose Smith plays really well within the flow of the offense. Maddie Nolan, finds her spots, and then Frida, besides just being a shooter, she plays as a team player all the time. And even though she may not end up with a ton of assists, she gets kind of those hockey assists where they, she'll find somebody and then we'll pitch it to Arnett inside and get the basket. So
yeah, because a lot of times I feel like people fail to realize that scoring the ball doesn't only just put points up on the board for the individual, but it creates, I don't know, I talk about this in football with the layers, but because of that one layer, now it's something that a defense has to worry about. Now you can distribute the ball, like you said, and at least those hockey assists when the ball gets moving, and it creates offense, even if it doesn't necessarily end up in an assist for Foreman. I don't know, it creates ball movement and open shots for the rest of the CU offense. So So I mean, yeah, her impact is more than felt, and I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like I'm not sure if I'm more impressed with her shooting or just her overall confidence. I mean, hearing her talk about her game and just seeing the way she plays, it's fun to watch.
Confidence is something you need out of a shooter like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think in her last 10 games, she's shooting almost 50% from three.
Yeah, no, that's insane.
That's all season long.
Well, yeah, 48.6. So
And that's on 7 attempts a game. It's not like she's just, only shooting it when she's open either.
Yeah.
She'll just get a lick of daylight and lets it go and splash. Like, she's a sniper.
yeah, and then just see,
Sniper.
like, I don't know. I mean, almost 49.5% from the field. Just in general is good to see. I mean, and it shows that she's not only a shooter, like she can get some buckets at the rim and
She can adjust off of it if her shot's not falling, which I think is really great about her game too. She has a mid-range game. She takes her shots when she can, and she can get to the rim pretty well.
Yeah.
For that someone of that, I guess, archetype.
Yeah,
of a shooter.
like that play style. And then that creates more opportunities, as I just mentioned. So yeah, I mean, overall good stuff. And then they don't play until the 21st. And who's that matchup against? I gotta see. Against Northern Colorado.
Yeah, it's just the one more tune-up game. I mean, JR called it the preseason, so the only real non-preseason type games have been that LSU game and then NC State, the loss. Because NC State, I think, is up to like number 3 in the country. I would have to double check that.
Let me check.
But they kind of took
number
people
3.
surprised like we did. They weren't even ranked to start the season, and now they're scorching hot. Still haven't lost the game. Still in their non-conference slate, at least until they play Virginia on
the
New Year's
31st.
Eve.
Yeah. But that NC State team is
they're special. I mean, they came out of nowhere.
I mean, I think they were picked to finish 8th in the ACC in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken. So for
I think you mentioned that when I was talking about the loss. But, I mean, that doesn't look like a bad loss now. You see how great of a team that is that can, force that uncharacteristically bad of a game, especially in that first half. We only scored 6 in the first quarter, so yeah.
Yeah.
I think
they won the rebound battle, which is...
That's very rare.
As we mentioned, rare. So yeah, I mean, we already talked about that game in past podcasts, so you can find that one a little bit more. I think that was episode 10 now at this point. 11, because that was the first one back after break.
This is 12.
So episode 11, our one last week. We went more in depth on the NC State loss, but yeah, I mean, I forget exactly where I was going with that, but
no, that's fine. I mean, I think the important thing is just that we're getting these tune-ups. We're shaking out these turnover issues early, and hopefully against Northern Colorado we can limit them, because even against these inferior opponents, I mean, we're making the game a little more uglier than it needs to be.
Yeah.
But I think we'll be fine. I'm glad Quay finally had a game that she can be proud of. 7 for 11 shooting, was raining down threes. I mean, Jalen kept finding her like on this like cross court pass, like just slinging it to her, and she would just rain him every time. So yeah, it's they've done a great job moving the ball, working against different type of defenses, going on those runs where they just are unstoppable, and then they just kind of put the opponent in the rearview mirror. There's definitely things they need to tweak to really get to that level of competing for even the Final Four spot, or top spot in the Pac-12, because of how good the conference is, and with teams like Stanford, USC, UCLA,
Utah, even though
Utah will be a really fun matchup, I think, and even Oregon State, I think they're still undefeated.
And Washington's still undefeated, at least, I think. Could you double check on that?
Yeah, I could.
Just go to our team. It would show the...
Yeah, whatever. I'm already looking up this way. Yeah, first in the Pac-12. Obviously. But 9-0 for Washington. You have, four undefeated teams in
Washington
the
State still
Pac-12.
ranked.
5 of them with 1 loss. Even some of those lesser teams like Arizona State, Arizona, and Oregon only having 2 and 3 losses. I mean, it is a preseason, so that makes sense. And we'll have to see how things shake up in Pac-12 play. I don't know. I mean,
pretty happy to go where we're at. It's about all we have to say. No soccer, volleyball going on. I did want to, before this is over, shout out the Miraflores Monsters, my brother's flag football team. Won the junior championship just this afternoon, so let's ride.
Let's ride. No, but I don't know. CU did. Our club hockey team split the Rocky Mountain Showdown.
I wish I wasn't sick and was able to go to that game, where we beat CSU, because that seemed electric. The atmosphere, the crowd seemed packed to the brim.
Yeah. I mean,
all of Alex and Jared's calls were awesome. Aiden as well on that broadcast crew, doing a great job. They do such a great job, and they're going to be sorely missed next hockey season.
Yeah, no, definitely. But luckily, that's why we have so many freshmen. So
yeah.
but that was sweet, and even though it's club hockey, they're playing at the rec center in the it's kind of a smaller rink as far as seating. That honestly does help, because you can kind of, I don't know, not that they're selling tickets, but I don't know, you can sell out those games.
Right. No, it's super fun. It's super fun to go to, and just they had another really crazy game where they won like 7-6. I don't know if that was the D1 team. I may have to double check that.
Yeah, I forget, but
it's great to see, and that's about all we really have to say.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, people, if you can hear, are dying to get in. So we're running out of time. As I mentioned before, I need to get to class somewhat soon. Even though I'd much rather keep talking about CU sports. So,
me too.
So I don't know. I think that's it for this week. I'm Oliver Hayes.
I'm Harrison Simeon.
And as always, you heard it here first. Peace.